Business meeting. Sorry, had the mic off. Today is Monday, June 10th, 2019. I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with our presentation of colors.
Presenting tonight's colors will be a combined detail from 4 Cabarrus County high schools, including Cadet Captain Dean Brindle from Central Cabarrus High School, Cadet Captain Jimena Diaz from J.M. Robinson High School, Cadet Captain Joshua Flanagan from Mount Pleasant High School, and Cadet Staff Sergeant Haley Miller from Northwest Cabarrus High School.
Right, haste, forward, march.
Honoring America tonight with the singing of our national anthem were members of the C.C. Griffin Middle School Chorus, which recently received a superior rating at the North Carolina Music Performance Assessment. Their personnel includes Liz Logan, Maria Ponce Oriana, Haley Barnes, Desabria Bowens, Grace Brooks, Michaela Coleman, Mackenzie Cunningham, Kathy Gomez, Allison Gullidge, Joshua Day, Willow Parsons, Quiana Pratt, Savannah Press, Hannah Shank, Jocelyn Stanley, Brian Torrance, Leah Stevens, and Addison Yarborough. The director of the C.C. Griffin Chorus, who was recently selected as a finalist for the Charlotte Arts and Sciences Council Educator of Excellence, is Mrs. Marla Young. Congratulations.
Board members, I'll take a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Mr. Shoemaker, I guess that was?
No,
Or
Mr.
Mr. Harrison.
He's got a deeper voice than I do.
And Mr. Walter made the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's 7-0. I'd like to thank Deputy Wilson from Boger Elementary for being here. Oh, there. Looking, where are you? Thank you for being here tonight. We'll begin our recognitions portion of the agenda. First with the Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month with Mrs. Glenda Jones, Dr. Louder, and Mr. Tim Vaughn. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. We're excited to have Mr. Tim Vaughn with us this evening as we present our final Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month for the 2018-19 school year. Mr. Vaughn, we thank you and Hilbish Ford for your vision and commitment to honoring outstanding teachers in our district, and we are grateful to have such a dedicated community partner in Hilbish Ford, so thank you very much. Our Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month for June is Miss Jana Jackson. Miss Jackson, would you, your family, and any members of your school's administrative team who are here tonight please come forward? Jackson is a kindergarten teacher at STEM Elementary School. She was nominated for this award by a parent who wrote, Miss Jackson fits everything that you think a kindergarten teacher should be. She's always, I'm sorry, I can hear it, am I here, am I not here? I apologize, did you hear me? Miss Jackson fits everything that you think a kindergarten teacher should be. She's always smiling, is hardworking, kind, caring, and goes above and beyond with her students and parents. She communicates daily with parents through Class Dojo. I feel like I'm learning along with my child each and every day because of the pictures, videos, and comments Miss Jackson sends. She keeps me updated on what my child is learning through personal messages on Dojo. So we can praise and encourage our daughter's goals at home. Miss Jackson has taught my 5-year-old more than I could ever dream or imagine. She has creative activities to make learning fun. I'm constantly amazed at the incredible things she does on a daily basis. She has instilled a love of learning in my daughter that I hope she never loses. My daughter loves, and that's all capitals, coming to school each day because of the amazing things that go on in Miss Jackson's classroom. Miss Jackson, thank you for being such a fine example of a kindergarten teacher and for providing such a positive and memorable experience for your students and their parents. Congratulations on your selection as our Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month for June. Now please allow Mr. Vaughn to present you with your award and then allow our board members to congratulate you.
For a picture.
Go right through here and let them shake your hand, and the family can go as well.
Next, we'll recognize one of our own, the Teacher of the Year, Board of Education Representative, Ms. Kate Colbreth. If you
All
would
right,
join
Kate.
Mrs. Jones.
Come right on down here on the hotline there. Kate Colbreth, the Cabarrus County Schools 2018-19 Teacher of the Year and the Southwest Regional Teacher of the Year, began her teaching career with CCS in 2010 as a teacher at W.M. Urban Elementary School. and in 2014 moved into the lead teacher role. In 2016, she transferred to Wolf Meadow as a lead teacher, and in 2017, Culberth decided she missed being with her students daily and moved back into the classroom full-time. Culberth has a Bachelor of Arts in Inclusive Education and Spanish from Nazareth College of Rochester, a Master of Education in Reading from UNC Charlotte, and a Graduate Certificate in School Leadership from Appalachian State University. In addition to her leadership in the classroom, Culberth has served as a PLC facilitator, school improvement team co-chair, lead mentor, school improvement team grade level representative. At the district level, Culberth has served on the curriculum writing team and has presented multiple professional development workshops. Through the Miriam and Robert Hayes Charitable Trust sponsorship, Kate will be traveling to Mexico in June with several other educators throughout North Carolina with the Center for International Understanding. This experience will allow Kate an opportunity to learn more about Mexico's history, culture, and education system, as well as explore global challenges and develop potential partnerships with other schools. Angie McLean, the 2018-19 Weinkauf Elementary Teacher of the Year, will be traveling with Kate as well. This evening, we would like to thank Kate Culberth for serving as the teacher representative on the Cabarrus County Board of Education for the 2018-19 school year. Kate's service to Cabarrus County Schools is invaluable, and we thank Kate for her commitment to education and the students of Cabarrus County Schools. We also want to present Kate with just a small token of our appreciation. And you can see the purchase came from our very own Arts Council that supports our public schools here in Cabarrus County. So thank you so much, and we appreciate it.
I just wanted to share that a long time ago, I don't remember how many years, but it was in the 2000s, early 2000s, we invited the Teacher of the Year to join us on the dais. And since then, I'll just say every year keeps getting better and better as far as the contributions. Feeling like you're one of us. You don't get to vote, unfortunately, but you give us some great insight. So thank you again for spending Monday evenings with us. Next we'll have Dr. Mary Beth Roth for Rocky River Elementary School recognitions.
Okay, we're first going to recognize the Fire Life Safety Bowl team from Rocky River. We have Tyler Danya, Alicia Lopez, Nash Love, Gracie Lowe, Marcos Pascual Mateo, and advisors Linda Conarn and Jennifer Souther. The Fire and Life Safety competition teams are comprised of 5 4th or 5th grade students. These students study all year to learn facts about fire safety and other important life, health, and safety related issues. The team members are given a book to read, learn, and memorize the hundreds of numbers and facts associated with fire and life safety. The competition consists of a team round, individual round, and buzzer round. Rocky River Elementary's Fire and Life Safety Bowl team came in first place in Cabarrus County in March and placed 3rd in the state competition, which was held in April. The team stayed after school every Wednesday to practice and is comprised of 5 awesome 5th grade students. Their dedication to learn and memorize, as well as their strong desire for competition, made them an unbeatable team this year. Their coaches, Mrs. Conarn and Ms. Souther, will have a hard time finding a team next year to fill their shoes. Join me in congratulating this team. We are going to recognize the American Student Council National Honor Council. We have Warren Horn Yada, Nieto Nance, Vanessa Caitlin Nailpabi, Erica Ketchum, Gracie Lowe, Sydney Lyon, Leah Martin, Marissa Jennifer Darby, Catherine de Cabrera Arianes Camila, Burnett Banner, Hannah Aubriena, and their advisor Elizabeth Benstead. The American Elementary Student Council Excellence Award is given out yearly by the National Association of Elementary School Principals. The goal is to recognize elementary student councils for their outstanding participation in the following areas: community service, student leadership, citizenship, and school spirit. In order to be considered a Council of Excellence, the elementary school must submit 3 projects, their constitution, how members are elected, a letter from the council's co-leaders, a letter from the principal, and photos. Rocky River has won this award 3 years in a row and is the only North Carolina elementary school to do so. Congratulations.
The next recognitions we'll have from Mr. Parker in the CTE, Career and Technical Education Honors.
Good evening. We'll start out with Technology Student Organization. The Technology Student Association is a national organization of students engaged in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. TSA is open to students currently enrolled in or who have completed technology education courses. TSA's membership includes over 233,000 middle and high school students in approximately 2,000 schools spanning 49 states. This year's state conference was held March 3rd through 5th at the Corey Convention Center in Greensboro, North Carolina. We had several first-place winners at the event. To recognize our middle school, first place in an event called Flight was Abby Eisenhower. Abby, if you want to step forward, you got your trophy already. We also had first place in a team event. Abby was on a team with Mary McBurris, and they won the Catapult Design event. And also for middle school, we won Sydney Carl, won for Essays on Technology. And then there was a team event for Aya Hanawi and McKenna Seymour. They won for Solve That Problem, a team event. And then also one more team event winner was Randy Troutman and Carter McConnell. They won first place in 3 events: Skills, Design, and Teamwork Challenge. Congratulations. I also want to make one comment. I'm on the advisory board for the state for the TSA organization, and it's nice to go to an event and I hear Mount Pleasant Middle School constantly over and over and over, and a certain advisor's name, Zach Trivett, constantly over and over, and it makes me very proud as a director for what you do for the school, so thank you very much. And the reason I said that is because this year Mount Pleasant Middle School won the Small Chapter of the Year Award for North Carolina. Congratulations. Go ahead. Congratulations. I will say while they're exiting, we had also one state officer elected this year from Central Cabarrus High School, Farouk Charkas.
This group is our DECA award winners. campuses of Hickory Ridge and Central Cabarrus. In nearly 70-year history, DECA has impacted the lives of more than 10 million students, educators, and
school administrators, and business professionals since it was founded in 1946. DECA prepares emerging leaders and entrepreneurs in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management in high schools and colleges around the globe. Their goal is to prepare the next generation to be experienced leaders who are academically prepared, community-oriented, and professionally responsible. This year's state conference was held March 14th through 17th at the Concord Convention Center in Greensboro, North Carolina. This year, our state and individual winners, first was Elijah Summer, who won Automotive Service Marketing. Also, congratulations. Also, Chloe Farrell, who won for Principles of Hospitality and Tourism. Very good, congratulations. Also, Pranay Tiwari, who won Business Services Marketing from Cox Mill High School. Congratulations. And also from Hickory Ridge High School, Shrey Shande for Principles of Finance. Congratulations. And I will say we have also this year another person who has been elected to a state office for DECA. And I'm very proud of this lady. Her name is Neha Patel, and she is the Vice President for the Dixie Pines region. Congratulations. DECA is a vital organization in our school system, and it never happens overnight. We have to have teachers and advisors that are very dedicated. And I was very proud that this year we had one of our own recognized at the state conference as being the Professional of the Year. Actually won the award for the Professional Division of the Year, and that is Miss Tina Martin from Cox Mill High School. There we go again. For our next group, we actually have 3 CTSOs we're going to recognize at the same time. The first one is Fbla, and then HOSA, and then Skills USA. To recognize our Fbla winner this year, their state conference was held in Greensboro at the Concord Convention Center. And their winner this year for Spirit Chant Award was Zipporah Sowell. Congratulations. Health Occupation Students of America, or HOSA as we know it, is also a CTSO for Career and Technical Education. Their state conference was held in Greensboro, March 6th through the 9th, and we had a couple of winners from HOSA. First place winner was Jerry Chin, who won first place in nutrition, and then also we had another state officer elected. We've been doing really well with that. Vice President for the Southwest region was Harshita Gudipudi. Congratulations. We always do really well at Skills USA, and I'll read a little bit about Skills USA. It is an event that actually covers multiple CTE areas. Skills USA is a national organization serving teachers and high school and college students who are preparing for careers in technical, skilled, and service occupations. The Skills USA Championships are a competitive event showcasing the best career and technical education students from across the country. Contests begin locally and continue through the state and national levels. This year's event was also held in Greensboro, April 9th through 11th. We actually have 4 first-place winners from our district. Mason Koob, who won first place in Masonry Estimating from Mount Pleasant High School. We had Matthew Phillips, who won first place in Architectural Drafting from Northwest Cabarrus High School. Ryan Wood, who won first place in Technical Drafting from Northwest Cabarrus High School. And also Garrett Robertson and Landon Sheedy, who won Automotive Skills from J.M. Robinson High School. I will say also we've had 2 advisors show up. So Stephen Thacker, thank you for being here. And also thank you for being here, big guy. I appreciate you coming from J.M. Robinson. We would like to recognize all of them for their the awards that they've got this evening. Thank you. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you for telling me. The last two students that I wanted to recognize this evening have won very special awards for career and technical education. President Lyndon Johnson established the Presidential Scholars Program in 1964, which had honored more than 7,000 outstanding high school seniors since that time. The mission of the program is to recognize and honor superior high school seniors and thereby to encourage high attainment among all students. Under the executive order establishing the Presidential Scholars Program, students are selected based on outstanding scholarship. In 2015, President Obama signed an executive order creating an additional component, recognition for excellence among students in career and technical education. Per the original executive order establishing the program, students are selected based on outstanding scholarship. Since 2016, outstanding students who demonstrate excellence in CTE are also included in the Presidential Scholars Recognition process. Each year, Cabarrus County Schools submits a selection for the CTE Presidential Scholars Program. This year's selection from J.M. Robinson High School was Mr. Brandon Mangan. Congratulations, Brandon. Apprenticeship 2000 was developed in 1995 to create a skilled workforce in Charlotte, North Carolina. Many of you have probably heard of Apprenticeship 2000. Partner companies provide jobs by training apprentices for skilled trades and in return gain the skilled workforce needed to operate their high-tech business. Apprenticeship 2000 is a 4-year technical training program designed to develop people for highly skilled technical trades such as machinists, tool and die makers, mechatronics technicians, mold makers, and electricians. Apprenticeship 2000 seeks highly motivated juniors and seniors from surrounding high schools to become part of their apprenticeship program. I'm very proud that this year we've had Colton Roberts from Central Cabarrus who's been accepted into Apprenticeship 2000. Congratulations, Colton. We had one student, and I know she's not here this evening, but I did want to read this. We actually had a student from the AOIT Academy, the Academy of Information Technology at Cox Mill, who was recognized for the North Carolina Women in Technology Aspirations in Computing Award. And just to read a little bit about that, I did want to give her recognition, but the North Carolina Women in Technology Award for Aspirations in Computing builds a talent pool for growing technical workforce that helps academic and corporate organizations celebrate diversity in computing by honoring young women at the high school level for their computing-related achievements and interests. Award recipients are selected based on their aptitude and aspirations in technology and computing, leadership ability, academic history, and plans for post-secondary education. This year we actually have a national award winner, which is why I want to read this evening. She's from Cox Mill High School, and it's from the Academy of Information Technology. And if you see her, I know she couldn't be here this evening, her name is Olivia Rothgib, so please congratulate her. Thank you very much. Come on, shake hands.
And we'll continue with agenda item 4.05 for the Fine Arts Honors. Welcome, Mr. Bart Tolbert. We're ready for Bart. Welcome.
Thank you for this opportunity to recognize the fine arts in Cabarrus County Schools. The Hickory High School bands were both recently awarded superior ratings at the 2019 High School Music Performance Assessment Concert in Mooresville. The symphonic band received a superior rating in grade 4 literature, while the wind ensemble received a superior rating in both grade 6 and masterworks literature. MPA is often likened to an end-of-course test for band, as it is the only standards-based assessment based on the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. In addition to Hickory Ridge's MPA successes, Lisa Zuo, Sufyan Asfar, and Musa Asfar auditioned and were selected to perform with the 2019 North Carolina All-State Band. Congratulations to the Hickory Ridge High School Band Program and their director, Mr. Chris White. The Concord High School Jazz Band recently awarded a superior rating at the 2019 High School Jazz Band Music Performance Assessment Concert in Hickory. Jazz MPA is a new assessment component to the North Carolina Bandmasters Association. It is often likened to end-of-course tests for jazz, as it is a grade-level competency specified and based on North Carolina Standard Course of Study. Additionally, the Concord High School Winter Guard program was awarded the bronze medal in Regional A class at the 2019 Carolina Winter Ensemble Association Championships in Rock Hill, South Carolina. CWE serves as our local adjudication circuit for North and South Carolina winter ensembles. Congratulations to the Concord High School Performing Arts programs and their director, Mr. Ed Harper. On April 6th, the Northwest Cabarrus High School Varsity Winter Guard was awarded the bronze medal in Scholastic A-Class competition at the 2019 Winter Guard International World Championships in Dayton, Ohio. The ensemble was commended for excellence for their show entitled In Every Heart There Is a Room, which featured the song And So It Goes by Billy Joel. Their bronze medal and also their finalist performance score of 95.645 will propel the ensemble into the Scholastic Open class for the 2020 season and has firmly established the Northwest Cabarrus Varsity Winter Guard program as one of the finest Scholastic Winter Guard performing ensembles in the world. Congratulations to the Northwest Cabarrus High School Varsity Winter Guard and their directors, Mr. Chris Hardesty, Mr. David Parker, Ms. Lakia Ruffin, and Mr. Lenny Westmoreland. Unable to join us tonight was Abigail Avila from Concord High School, who recently won the U.S. House of Representatives Congressional District 8 art competition for her work entitled My Little Niece. Miss Avila unfortunately could not be with us tonight, but her artwork will be on display in the U.S. Capitol Art Gallery for the entire 2019-2020 school year. Congratulations to Abigail Avila and her teacher, Miss Quinn Dion.
And if anybody goes to visit Washington, D.C. this summer, I believe it's at the lower level of the Capitol where there's a cafe downstairs and whatnot, and you can see all the art displayed. It's kind of through a tunnel, but it's very impressive to see all the different pieces of work. So welcome Ms. Nicole Sandor for the VEX World Competition Teams.
Good evening. As Cabarrus County continues to move its VEX robotics program into the future, we are here tonight to recognize some of the worldwide successes of some of this year's competitive teams. The teams here tonight each qualified for the VEX Worlds competition in Louisville, Kentucky, and represented our district at this incredible experience back in April. Our first Worlds team here tonight was a first-time competitor at Worlds this year. Please congratulate the following members of the Northwest Cabarrus Middle School Chase Robotics team: Alessandra Sloop, Natalie Plyler, Arthur Eversman, and their coach, Kurt Lawrence. This was Northwest Cabarrus Middle's first experience attending VEX Worlds. During the 4 days, the robotics team learned a lot about planning, designing, and competing, and a lot about themselves. They are proud to have set high standards for the future VEX teams at Northwest Cabarrus Middle. Congratulations, guys. This is the second year our next team, the Mount Pleasant Middle School Robo Tigers, has sent a VEX team to Worlds. Please congratulate the following members of the Mount Pleasant Middle School Robo Tigers Team B: Ella Barber, Tristan Clapp, Emma Grace Swinson, and their coach, Zachary Trivet. Mount Pleasant Middle's Worlds qualifying team, consisting of all 6th grade students, is the newest addition to Mount Pleasant Middle's competitive robotics organization, thanks to a Girl Power grant. This is a grant that focuses on getting girls involved in STEM-related fields. During Worlds, Team B had the opportunity to compete with many teams from the United States and also scored their highest teamwork challenge run of the entire season. So congratulations, guys. For the 6th year in a row, the J.M. Robinson Team 5139 has qualified one or more teams for the VEX Worlds Championships. This competitive season, Robinson's C Team made their 3rd consecutive trip to the Big Show by winning the most coveted Worlds qualifying award at the North Carolina State Championships, the Excellence Award. Please welcome the J.M. Robinson team members: Team Captain Aaron Bennett, Co-Captain Cheryl Marie Anderson, Brendan Mangan, Matthew Mann, Jacob Skinner, Arian Amin, and Anish Satish. Additionally, 4 students from the Bulldog program were selected by the Rec Foundation to represent the program through the World's Ambassador program. These students escorted dignitaries throughout the World's venue, assisted international students, and performed other mission-critical volunteer activities throughout the course of the 4-day event. Please welcome these ambassadors that attended from Robinson: Yair Mahian, Marcus Anthony, Ian Palacios, and Seth Duran. And finally tonight, we want to recognize Robinson's VEX coach, Dave Parisi. During VEX Worlds this year, Coach Parisi was nominated and awarded the Inspiration All-Star Award and was inducted into the STEM Hall of Fame in recognition of his outstanding commitment toward advancing students in STEM. As an Inspiration All-Star, VEX recognizes Coach Parisi as a devoted individual who has touched students' lives and provided them with opportunities to expand their knowledge and solve problems in the worlds of the very different worlds of STEM. He's shown true leadership and dedication to the VEX competition experience. Dave has certainly made an enormous impact in expanding VEX competition experiences to our children in each of our Cabarrus County schools. So we want to give a big congratulations to Coach Parisi.
And next we'll have Mr. Ben Allred for the Fuel Education Transformation Award.
Good evening. Fuel Education is a leading provider of online and blended learning solutions for students grades K-12. And each year, Fuel Education selects award winners from more than 2,000 school districts across all 50 states. This year, they recognized 7 individuals and districts, including our very own ESL and Title III coordinator, Teresa Palma. Teresa is the winner of a 2019 Transformation Award, which recognizes schools, districts, and organizations that are successfully transforming the way teachers teach and students learn. Cabarrus County Schools won for its outstanding blended learning program, which uses online learning solutions to drive student achievement and support English language development. Join me tonight in recognizing Teresa for this outstanding achievement.
So it's great to see just a tip of the successfulness that has happened this school year. And as we get towards June, we always have more and more recognitions, but we're always enjoy them. So next, board members will move down to 5.01, the approval of the minutes for May 6th work session, May 13th business meeting, and May 28th, which was a special meeting. Mr. Harrison has made the motion. Is there a second? Mrs. Grimsley made the second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. We'll move into now the chair and superintendent comments. And I do have some prepared remarks tonight. Just wanted to share that in the midst of other topics before the board, sometimes we need to be reminded of the most basic needs for successful school day for many of our students. Teachers provide that smile and welcoming hug perhaps, but sometimes there are missing parts like pencils and notebooks. To that end, the Concord Afton Sunset Rotary Club, of which Mrs. Grimsley and I are members, is again taking on the local sponsorship of the WSOC Channel 9 School Tools Drive. I'm very grateful for the energetic Rotary volunteers for the 5 weeks from the start of the drive until we deliver supplies to each school. If anyone is interested in hosting a collection site, and that can be a business or a church, or you could sponsor a targeted collection by a scout troop, a Sunday school class, or even a book club, please let me know, and my email is on the district website. This can also be a great service project for young people, and we already have one young lady signed up to participate. You can also gather information at the Facebook page, Cabarrus County 9 School Tools. We will get the materials to you in July. We're preparing all of that right now. Both Cabarrus County Schools and Kannapolis City Schools will receive the proceeds of our drive. And last year, we collected 20,333 items, which was a record for the county. Every pencil and composition book helps. Every one of our schools will receive supplies. In the near future, we'll have collection locations posted on the WSOC 9 School Tools site and also on our Facebook page. The collections will formally start in the 4th week of July. I look forward to all of the board members assisting again this year. We had some great delivery folks engaged last year, and we appreciate your time. So, Dr. Louder?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We made it to the final week of school. High school students continue their final exams this week and will be dismissed from school early. All students will be dismissed early on Thursday, June 13th, which is the last day of school. Please check the district website for a list of dismissal times. Graduations for the class of 2019 will continue later this week on June 14th and 15th at the Cabarrus Arena and Event Center. Our graduation website has all the information you need. Once again, this year we will be offering a live feed of each graduation ceremony for anyone who isn't able to attend. Visit the graduation website at www.cabarrus.k12.nc.us/CabcoGrads19 for details and to access the live feed. Want to say congratulations to Miss Glenda Jones, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Communications, who was recently installed as the new president of the North Carolina Association of School Administrators. NCASA works to ensure quality learning experiences for all students through visionary and effective leadership. It is an umbrella organization under which North Carolina school administrator groups are unified, and it also represents school administrator viewpoints year-round with a definitive voice in the General Assembly and other policymaking bodies, including the North Carolina State Board of Education. So please join me in congratulating her on that honor. We also want to say congratulations to the winners of the 9th Annual Ellis Jewelers Future Designer Contest. Students' original designs were chosen, and Ellis Jewelers brought their designs to life by turning them into jewelry. Congratulations to Allison Martinez Cortez from Weddington Hills Elementary School, Sarah Noel from Harold D. Winkler Middle School, Valeria Castro from Northwest Cabarrus High School. And we also say thank you to Dan Levison and Ellis Jewelers for creating this terrific program that really does showcase our students' talents. The deadline to complete our annual parent satisfaction survey has been extended to Friday, June 14th. Parents can share their thoughts on important issues such as academic preparation, student support, school operation, and school safety. You can access the survey from the link on the district website. Our school nutrition program will provide free lunches to children in our community this summer. Sites will open on June 24th and continue through August 16th. Children aged 18 and younger are eligible for the free meal. No ID or reservations are required. For a list of those sites, please visit www.cabarrus.k12.nc.us/free summer meals. We also want to say welcome to our new Assistant Superintendent of Auxiliary Services, Brian Schultz. Brian is coming from Guilford County, where he was the Chief Academic Officer. Mr. Schultz worked in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools in a variety of positions, also as the Chief Academic Officer, but also as an Executive Director and as a principal. Prior to that, he was a teacher, an assistant principal, a principal, and the Director of Elementary Education for Cabarrus County Schools, where he worked here for 15 years. It is certainly our honor to say welcome home to Mr. Schultz. Please join me in welcoming him to Cabarrus County Schools. And last, before the board discusses the budget and the teacher supplement, it's important to say a little about the decisions and the process. Anytime there's a possibility of a school being vacated, either temporarily or permanently, it's going to be a tough decision and a tough process. We certainly understand why people are passionate and emotional about schools and the traditions of the school and the community. And ultimately, it's a good thing for people to be passionate about public schools in their community. However, while I try not to look at much as what is put on social media, my wife and daughters often do look at it. Much of the dialogue and the activity on social media that was shared with me was misinformed, distorted, untrue, and often pretty nasty. As we have this discussion, we should try to assume that everyone in this room has good intentions and cares about students. Teachers, parents, school board members, school system staff, and county commissioners all care about students in their community, or they would not be in their roles. We should make every attempt to have a discussion and make comments that are respectful and begin with the assumption that even when emotions and tensions are high, people have good intentions. Having said that, it is important to note that there are many difficult decisions that have to be made around students, taxpayer dollars, safety, and where students can and should go to school. According to the minutes of the meeting on April 13th, 2015, on my 13th day on the job as the superintendent, a motion was made by Ms. Carolyn Carpenter and seconded by David Harrison to build a replacement school, Royal Oaks, on the same site with a core capacity of 800 students. The motion passed 5-2 and the county agreed to build the school. Once the school was built, we had to look where students were located and decide where the best places were to assign students based on a new capacity of between 750 and 800. Ultimately, we recommended to the school board that the students from Beverly Hills be assigned to Royal Oaks. There are currently 300 students, a few more, at Royal Oaks and 336 neighborhood students at Beverly Hills. We can assign them all to Royal Oaks and still have more space for 100 or more students. We went out to explain this decision to the community. Some were understandably unhappy about that decision, and some are still unhappy about that decision. It's still what we believe is the most fiscally sound and appropriate decision. We believe that having a brand new facility with 450 empty seats in it, while keeping 336 students in a facility that is beyond its life cycle and 3 miles down the road, is not the best educational decision or the most fiscally sound one. Our school board took that recommendation and voted on June 28, 2018 to vacate Beverly Hills in June of 2020 and pay $20,000 to study if they should recommend building a new school on that piece of property. That study has been done, and it appears it will cost a minimum of $22 million or so to build a school on that piece of property when you factor in demolition, abatement, retaining walls, furniture, technology, and other soft costs. And that is if we started it today. Based on cost and experience, it will almost certainly cost more than that by the time that it could be built. At no time has the school board told the staff or suggested that they were going to go back and undo the decision on June 28, 2018. The statements that were made at our last meeting that said things like railroading, boxed in a corner, pitting students against teachers, and making decisions on the backs of students were not warranted. Our staff has worked diligently and very well with our county commissioners to try to fund school construction and also fund the school system and its operating expenses. Our number one budget priority for the past 4 years has been to increase our teacher supplement. Our county has worked well with us to convert that to a percentage and increase the teacher supplement. This year, after our budgets and the county budgets were complete, we communicated to the county staff and commissioners that our supplement was still trailing the state average, and we wanted to see if we could do more to increase the supplement. To their credit, they were willing to sit down and try to figure out a way to increase the supplement. Our staff sat and worked with them on how we could make that happen. When we left that meeting, we had developed a responsible way to pay for a substantial increase in the teacher supplement going forward that was all based on the school board vote on June 28th of 2018. When we went to the meeting, our understanding, county staff's understanding, and the commissioner's understanding was that Beverly Hills would be vacated in 2020 because the school board had voted for that on June 28th, 2018. There has been no discussion internally or externally about undoing that decision. Because Beverly Hills was going to be vacated, there was going to be roughly $500,000 saved in operating expenses. Those savings were going to begin as soon as Beverly Hills was vacated because of the school board decision on June 28th of 2018. The county simply agreed to take those savings and apply them to the teacher supplement, something they could have decided to apply somewhere else. Stating that these savings somehow pit students against teachers or railroad others is not fair to anyone involved. Our school board may still go ahead and recommend that we build a new Beverly Hills on the current site. It is not the recommendation of this staff, but if that is the board's decision and the county funds the building of Beverly Hills, then our staff will build the best possible school there that we can. It has been stated in a prior board meeting that it is possible to build a new school while students are in the current building. This would mean that there would not be an available and appropriate playground for several years. It would also mean that we would try to conduct school for over 300 students on the same piece of property where asbestos abatement would be going on. This is very simply a bad decision. The staff believes that regardless of whether the board decides to build a new Beverly Hills, the students are going to have to move out of that facility, a facility that is beyond its life cycle. Moving the students to Royal Oaks is the right decision for safety and the best use of taxpayer dollars. Once that is done, then the board can make a decision on how to proceed. In the meantime, we believe it is best to move students out and use the operational savings to pay our teachers more. We do not see any option where the students do not leave the current building. Lastly, there are some voices who have not been included in these discussions. Beverly Hills has approximately 336 neighborhood students. According to how the City of Concord defines the parameters of the Beverly Hills neighborhood, so if you take the City of Concord's map, they break things down into planning areas. One is Beverly Hills, Northgate, Wilmar. If you take the one that they call Beverly Hills, there are 27 students that live in the area that is defined as Beverly Hills. That means that 309 of the 336 students live in what the city defines as other areas besides Beverly Hills. Our best estimate of the students on free and reduced lunch is about 65% of the school. This means that the majority of kids that attend Beverly Hills are on free and reduced lunch. Approximately 188 of these students, who are our most at-risk students, deserve to attend a state-of-the-art facility that is located 3 miles down the road. If we continue to send students to the current facility, not only will we continue to spend an excessive amount of money to keep it running, we will be choosing to send many of our most vulnerable students to a building that is beyond its life cycle. We are called to think about these students and what is best for all students before we think about the preferences of adults. We recommend that we continue with the plan that the board previously voted on and that our county staff and commissioners support. It is a way to pay our teachers better and a way to save taxpayer dollars. If the school board is going to change their plans and previous decisions, we would ask that the board propose a way to pay for the decision without cutting teachers or other positions. Around 90% of our operational costs are people. The staff does not want the board to cut other positions, and we are continuing to add more students every year. The only other cut that has been suggested by a board member is closing Mary Frances Wall, our preschool for exceptional children. We certainly do not think that cutting a preschool program for many of our most handicapped students is the solution. We hope that the board will move forward with this responsible way to pay for raising the teacher supplement while the board decides what to do with the Beverly Hills site. Thank you.
Board members will go on to item 701 and guest speakers to address the board. I'll remind those who have signed up to speak, and I have the cards in the order they were received, that according to board policy 2310, a part of each meeting will be set aside for citizens to address the board through public comment. There's more information in your agenda, but specifically we will have, if you're not used to speaking, I know a lot of you have spoken here before, but you have 3 minutes unless you're representing a group, and I believe there's only one group representative in the stack, at which they will have 5 minutes to speak. We ask that the board members will not respond to you. We will listen, take notes if applicable, but generally, personnel, confidential, and specific school level matters, especially regarding children, should be handled in accordance with the board's grievance policy and or the appeal rights afforded under the North Carolina General Statute, and are not the proper subject of the public comment portion of this meeting. So as long as everybody understands the guidelines for public speaking, we will begin. And the first card I have is Ms. Nancy Freese-Baggert.
County education, not in terms of building massive schools solely for growth purposes, but in terms of wisdom, foresight, and ethics. As it is, the county invested $20,000 of taxpayer money to do an independent site study that supports economical options. Option B is appealing in that the children can stay on site while the school is constructed. Worried about system failure and impure water? There are older schools. And there is an award-winning science project on the state level that proves Beverly Hills elementary school water is the purest in the county. At least stay in Beverly Hills until the new school is funded, then go to Royal Oaks while option A is constructed. It appears to me that we have lost our vision and let politics slip into the equation. How do we regain our vision? I invite you to consider the following acronym for vision. V, value-driven, striving for student success and parental involvement in a safe, orderly, and inviting environment, getting our district back to being ethical and student-centered. I, innovative thinking. Imagine if school initiatives and improvements to the educational programs and services for students involve staff, parents, and students in the school-level decision-making processes. S, save our schools in Center City and support our teachers, students, and the sustainability of downtown Concord. I, integrity, the quality of being honest and having moral uprightness, making right choices, not skewing data, the state of being whole and undivided, telling the truth. O, option to choose what is right for each individual student by keeping the choice of smaller elementary schools. In neighborhood schools, keeping the largest small school possible with socioeconomic diversity in our Center City neighborhood. You are public servants. Honor the will of the people and provide this choice. Did any part of this acronym sound familiar? It should. It closely reflects the policy code of Cabarrus County Schools. I ask, what happened to your vision? It could be the unifying piece of the puzzle that would benefit the whole county, teachers, students, and citizens. The present discussion is only about tearing down our school based on misinformation. Where is the positive piece of our puzzle for our neighborhood school? Knowing the concrete plan moving forward would help us understand. We would like to come together in unity. I ask the Board of Education do the right thing based on truth and not be bullied.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we'll have Mr. David Burko. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. First off, I'd like to say that I support all teachers and the full supplement increase. To the majority of the board members, it is unfortunate that you were publicly blindsided at the work session on June 3rd and left in the dark while a few in positions of trust conspired to create a zero-sum game. During the June 3rd work session, Dr. Louder and Kelly Klutz stated that they went to the county commissioners to ask for the teacher supplement under the assumption that Beverly Hills would be vacated and therefore they would receive the operational savings to fund the teacher supplements. How convenient. Only a few board members, Cindy Furtenball and Barry Shoemaker, were aware of this information. It is important to note they did not volunteer this information until 4 savvy board members, Rob Walter, Laura Blackwell, Holly Grimsley, and Carolyn Carpenter, began asking questions after the proposal. They also emphasized that the previous board voted on the vacate last year, as if this were a permanent school closure. They had to present it this way in order to sell it to the county commissioners. There's only one problem. The original vote to vacate Beverly Hills was made using false and inaccurate information. The misleading information was exposed by citizens in this community for over a year, and on May the 13th, it was again confirmed to be false by a third-party architect. Last Monday, Tim Louder came before you and lied about his original estimate, which some used in the vote to vacate. As a father of 4 boys in this school system, I am deeply concerned after witnessing the ease at which this lie was delivered in a public meeting and on video. I encourage everyone to go back and watch the video. June 4th, 2018, at 29 minutes and 26 seconds, Tim Louder's total that he presented to the Board of Education was based on 400-seat school. Mr. Berg presented a 548-seat school. Those are not the same, not even close. I'm even more concerned that Dr. Louder allowed this to occur. This was no mistake, and it was no mistake a year ago. It has been calculated and orchestrated from those sitting in high positions. I have to wonder how many millions of dollars have been wasted in recent years that involve these same individuals who have misrepresented data to this board in order to influence your vote. Trust me, we will eventually find the answers. It is my hope that the current Board of Education starts holding the leadership accountable. I know you all on the board do the best you can, and historically, you have to rely on information you receive by those in positions of trust. Well, those days are over because the trust was broken. You have a rare opportunity tonight to restore that trust because you based the original vote off of misleading information. Thank you, and I hope that you do.
Okay. And board members will have time during our discussion to clarify some of the misstatements that I personally was the subject of. Mr. Ben Spencer. Welcome.
Good evening. Hi.
Good evening.
My name is Ben Spencer. I'm a 19-year veteran teacher of Cabarrus County Schools. During the 2008-2009 school year, I had the privilege of serving as the teacher liaison to the Cabarrus County Board of Education. That year was a redistricting year, so I have firsthand experience with the difficult decisions the school board often has to make. I know that matters that seem straightforward to the public are often in reality incredibly complex, and that, as elected officials, it is your job to reach decisions that prioritizes the needs of the community. I don't envy you that responsibility. As most, if not all of you are already aware, teacher supplement pay in Cabarrus County lags considerably behind school districts of a similar size and makeup. Despite ranking 10th in student population and 13th in per capita income, Cabarrus County ranks 36th in teacher supplemental pay. We consistently lose high-quality teachers to both Mecklenburg and Union County, where the supplemental pay is higher. Unless this trend is soon reversed, Cabarrus County risks becoming a second-tier school system. It is my understanding that the school board has the opportunity to match the 0.5% supplemental pay increase put forth by the county commissioners for the 2019-2020 school year by using money from the operational fund balance. As this is money in hand, I urge you to match the 0.5% increase without delay. Raising the teacher supplemental pay from 8 to 9% is the minimum that must be done to keep Cabarrus County competitive. Even with the increase, Cabarrus County will only make up 50% of the supplemental pay gap in comparison to Union County, assuming that the Union County supplement remains the same. Beyond next year, it is imperative that our county commissioners and our school board work together to protect and build upon the supplemental increase. Decisions involving taxpayer money must be prioritized in such a way that the needs of the county at large always take precedence. Nothing affects student learning outcomes more than having highly qualified teachers in the classroom. With the teacher shortage in North Carolina expected to increase exponentially in the coming years, it is imperative that Cabarrus County take proactive steps now to ensure the long-term health of our public schools. As a parent with a child in the school system and as a veteran teacher in the system, I urge the school board to begin working with stakeholders and decision makers now to expand the scope of what our community is willing to invest in public education. Our county is growing in leaps and bounds. If we are to remain the strong public school system that I've proudly spent 2 decades teaching in, then our vision of what is possible must grow as well. Thank you.
Mrs. Brenda Rakoff. Good evening.
The last time I spoke to you all, I thought I had said everything that I could. After the June 3rd work session, I decided I would address you again. There are people who say, move on. They voted to vacate Beverly Hills a year ago. We continue this discussion because our Board of Commissioners agreed to fund a third-party feasibility study that showed not one, but 2 options for a new school large enough to house 500 students. And we continue this discussion because we know that a neighborhood school is in the best interest of our community and all the children who live in it. And I say we continue this discussion because the decision to vacate Beverly Hills Elementary in the first place was based on false information, similar to false information presented in this room on June 3rd. Support keeping Beverly Hills open or not. Support keeping teacher supplements or not. They are 2 separate issues. The commissioners did not say if this board reverses the vacate, they will not fund the 0.5% teacher supplement. The budget policy approved by our Board of Commissioners does not say that. You said that, Mrs. Furtenbaugh. I had hoped that you would take an opportunity this week to set the record straight, that you would have admitted your misunderstanding of the budget policy. But while you remained silent, this community got upset. Teachers got upset, parents got upset, people got upset with the commissioners, and people got upset with you. You created that. Mrs. Furtenbaugh, I do not believe you displayed the leadership skills necessary to sit in that chair. I really hope we can move forward tonight. I hope you will vote to fund for the 0.5% for teacher supplements, and I hope you will vote to reverse the vacate of Beverly Hills Elementary School and use Royal Oaks as a swing school for our 3 aging neighborhood schools as it was initially intended to be used. Thank you.
Mr. Jim Fulton. Mr. Fulton. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Louder, Madam Chair, and members of the board. My comments this evening are directed primarily to the superintendent. Ever since opposition mobilized against the closure of Beverly Hills and it became apparent you were committed to a plan that also included closing McAllister and Coltrane Webb and consolidating them into an 800-seat, 100,000 square foot school totally inappropriate for the McAllister site, I've struggled to find a coherent narrative that will explain why you, your staff, and several members of this board remain so committed to this ill-conceived idea and persist with efforts to close Beverly Hills permanently and send those students to Royal Oaks. You've heard reasoned and fact-based arguments over and over again that demonstrates this plan is not in the best interest of the students, it's not in the best interest of the parents, it's not in the best interest of the community, and as it turns out, it's not even the best interest of the county financially. But you continue to double down on a bad idea using inaccurate and misleading data to justify your persistence, culminating with its latest cynical attempt to falsely conflate operational savings gained by closing Beverly Hills with funding for teacher supplements. There is no problem with our schools that can be or needs to be fixed by closing or consolidating them, and the only reason anything at all needs to be done is that maintenance on these schools and others has been neglected and remained underfunded by the county for years, to the tune of about $200 million countywide. So replacing the schools in kind makes perfect sense, the story is easy to follow, and it now appears it will even result in monetary savings. But you and your staff unilaterally changed the original plan to use extra space at Royal Oaks to swing students from R3 community schools. And it was presented to the public, the county commission, and this board in a way that ignored the drawbacks, exaggerated the benefits, hardly complied with North Carolina general statutes pertaining to school closures, and used cost data to support it that now appears to be inaccurate and misleading. I'm a McAllister parent, and while I'm pleased the feasibility study for Beverly Hills demonstrated a replacement school is economically advantageous, that may not be the case for these other schools. But I think there are more basic, meaningful reasons for preserving these schools in dollars and cents, all of which you've heard, and if keeping them is the right thing to do from an educational perspective, from a community perspective, from a safety perspective, then I frankly don't care if it costs $17 million or $27 million a piece to do it. But vision, leadership, and community partnership are required to pull this off. You as a superintendent are either in the business of providing the best education for our students, or you're in the business of saving the county money at their expense, the expense of our teachers, at the expense of our communities, and over the opposition of the public and members of your own board. The county has not only the privilege but the obligation under state law to provide an education for our children, an education that must be first and foremost in the best interest of the students and the communities our schools serve. It is not enough to only provide whatever education the county feels it can afford, whether it is for new schools, maintenance, or operational expenses such as teacher supplements. And there are plenty of people ready and willing to remind them of that. As I said the last time I appeared before you, you have an opportunity to reconsider your options, to bring together a community in support of your policies, to accomplish something worthwhile that is good for the county, good for the school system, good for our communities, and most of all, good for our children. So reverse the vacate. Finally, I'd like to thank all the board members who supported our cause, regardless of the reasoning that speaks to them, but I would especially like to thank those who have been with us on principle since the beginning. Thank you so much.
Bob Cruth. And Mr. Cruth, I just have to share the irony of how many times I came before your Board of requesting money for schools.
I know. It's like funny. I'm sitting here going, okay, so basically that been sitting there for 12 years. We're all sitting at another venue, and I was thinking back to 14 years ago when me and Mrs. Carpenter were bludgeoned our skin. I can't believe you still do this. In fact, somebody once asked me if I wanted to run.
There's some irony for you being on that side.
Yeah, somebody asked me if I wanted to run for Board of Education. I said, are you kidding me? Anyway,
well, welcome, sir.
Well, Madam Chair and board members, thank you. I'm coming tonight, and I'll be right up front and tell you, I don't want to see Beverly Hills closed. I want to see a school on that site. But I'm realistic and know that that school is beyond its life cycle. I've just recently walked the halls of that school and seen what it looks like. I've 4 kids went through there. I've had a grandchild that also went to kindergarten there a couple years ago, and I can tell you that it is in need of replacement. But I can tell you too, up here, I know from knowing some of you 20 years and longer, and some of the people in staff for 20 years and longer, how this is a very hard decision for you, and I know you have the best interest in mind. And from my standpoint, though, I was looking at it and thinking about 3 things that I guess maybe get sideways, and just the perception is a lot of it, just when it comes out. And part of it, one of those was the idea of the supplements, how quickly they came out. Right at the same time we were dealing with seeing the study being completed for replacing Beverly Hills. And I looked at it, and Dr. Louder, thank you, wasn't sure what that number was as far as the savings was concerned, but I'm looking at the way you fund on a per capita basis. If you base that on the enrollment, you're looking at only about $800,000 of local money that goes to Beverly Hills. Is all of that going to go over, how much that's going to go to Royal Oaks because of their increased population? But I wasn't sure what that number was. I knew it had to be somewhere obviously south of that. The second thing is that my concern, and I guess I see it, and I think it's already been touched on here tonight, is the idea of that we're just going to replace, and I saw on the 10-year plan, of course, I know 10-year plan, the day after it's printed, it's out of date. But on the 10-year plan, looking at possibly spending $60 million on replacing Coltrane Webb and R. Brown McAllister elementary schools. What rules would you use and guidelines to replace those schools versus looking at rolling them into a new Wolf Meadow school, for instance, or expanding Irving Elementary and shut those schools down and move those schools? That's kind of what we're facing. So if you look at the rules, how are they going to apply fairly across the board for all the neighborhood schools? I would love, myself personally, would not mind seeing something done between Coltrane Webb and Beverly Hills, because it would create a north and a south Concord downtown school. I mean, I get much agreement, a lot of agreement from my neighbors and friends behind me, but the other thing is, and I think that Dr. Louder again touched on this earlier, is that the decision to vacate. We need to replace vacate, the period in vacate, with a comma. When you hear vacate, you think of Bethel Elementary in Midland. I know that Board of Commissioners had a lot to do with why it's looking like that right now, but that's what we need to do. We need to start looking at a plan. We've got a lot of energy in this group behind me of our neighbors and friends that have gotten to know, and we need to ask them to get involved in helping to chart the future. Thank you.
So next is Kim Biondi. Welcome. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay,
Excellent
thank
job.
you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am a member of Cabarrus County Teachers United, and for 19 years I have taught English at Central Cabarrus High School, teaching my kids literature, composition, and rhetoric. Tonight, however, I am far more concerned with numbers than with words. Currently, Cabarrus County offers its teachers an 8% supplement in addition to base salary. If I switch to Union County, I'd see a $1,000 increase in my supplement. In Charmeck, that supplemental percentage more than doubles. I love my school and my kids and my colleagues, and money is not my primary reason for staying here. But here are some more numbers. Cabarrus County Schools currently has 89 vacancies, with more certain to open up this summer. Only 161 new teachers graduated from UNCC in May, and money will make most of them flock to Union and Charmeck, along with the graduates from App State and Elon and Catawba. We are the 9th largest school system in North Carolina, yet we rank 34th in the supplement we offer. This leaves Cabarrus County with a tricky problem to solve. How can we attract and keep talented educators? I am sure that 100% of our board members will say they support an increase in the supplement. 100% will say that Cabarrus County teachers deserve more than we are getting. 100% will say we need to remain competitive, of course, and attract new talent and keep our experienced teachers. This year, Cabarrus County teachers are slated to get a 1% increase from 8 to 9%, with half of the money coming from the fund balance and the other half kicked in by the county commissioners. And after this year, once the fund balance is spent, what will happen to that increase? Some people are trying to use division, setting up teachers in this county against parents, creating either-or situations, saying that this increase, which is only a start, a small step in the right direction, will be subtracted this year if they can't find the money to support it. Instead of division and subtraction, our school board needs to think about adding their voices to our cause, adding the support of the county commissioners, adding to the increase of our supplements until they are commensurate with neighboring counties. If this increase ends up forgotten or abandoned, if lip service is all we get paid, then this drastic teacher shortage that other counties are already facing will be ours. If, however, the board works with our commissioners, if we are not divided, if we multiply the reasons that make our county a great place to live and work, then we can solve the problem before us with a simple formula. Good schools for our kids and good money for our teachers equal good reasons for families and businesses to keep coming to Cabarrus County.
Mr. Keith Milletta. I think we're having a parade of Teacher of the Years tonight.
I want to thank the board for the tireless and largely thankless work that you do to make our school system the envy of other counties. A former Teacher of the Year in 2004, I sat at what I called the Super Friends desk for 2005 and witnessed firsthand the thoughtfulness and wisdom with which you all approached every issue. For that wisdom and care, I thank you. In one of my favorite punk rock songs, People Who Died, Jim Carroll sings, "They were all my friends, and they died." It's a refrain that echoes in my head as I look back at all the young teachers who've left Central Cabarrus since I began in August of 1993. Though they haven't died, each time a teacher leaves taking her talents elsewhere, our school system and its students die a little bit. Many of the following names left after their third year, the point in our careers where we begin to master the craft of student management, curriculum unpacking, and content delivery. Within this list of names are school and county teachers of the year, department chairs, innovative instructors, and teaching stars on the rise. Many realized that Cabarrus County was not compensating them enough and went to other counties like Union and Mecklenburg, or to states like Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and New York. Others left teaching entirely to pursue careers as principals or in the private sector. All shared a love for teaching, but upon looking at their paychecks, decided they were greener pastures elsewhere. In recent past, these teachers and many, many others have left Central Cabarrus and Cabarrus County. Kedrick Lewis, Melissa Sykes, Helena Cunningham, Amy Cudahy, Blake Felker, Megan Yakuzo, Jeremy Hatchin, Jennifer Gray, Jennifer Williams, Bridget Jones, Jessica Fava, Matt Stevenson, Joe Kenny, Justin Pierce, Hillary Bolin, Kristen Fye, Lori Zeman, Caitlin Geronda, Allison Hahn, and long ago, my friend who I began teaching next to, Dr. Christopher Lauder. Allison Hahn is a former Cabarrus County Teacher of the Year. Justin Pierce, who now teaches at Huff High, travels the country to present his innovative approach to teaching the photographic arts. Caitlin Geronda and her husband Mark are now in New York and are treasured members of the Saratoga Springs High Science Department. Go Blue Streaks. Jeremy Hatchin is studying at UNCC to become a principal, and Dr. Lauder, as we all know, is our superintendent. These are not everyday teachers. They are superstars who on a yearly basis decide to leave Cabarrus County classrooms for a better financial future. And those names I read were just a few from Central Cabarrus. I bet every teacher here can rattle off a similar list of names from their schools. Ultimately, this argument should be addressed by the county commissioners. Economic growth in Cabarrus County has been fueled by families' desires to be part of this exemplary school system. Therefore, little investment in educators pays dividends far beyond the walls of the school. Cabarrus County is strong because of our schools, and our students are best served when the brightest minds are leading Cabarrus County classrooms, not leaving for neighboring counties and states. Approve a permanent increase in the county supplement to keep Cabarrus County competitive and help halt the exodus of our best young talent. Thank you.
We have Susan Folks. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Susan Folks, and I am a third grade teacher at Carl A. Furr Elementary, and I've been at Furr since it opened 12 years ago, and I love working there. I'm speaking to you today about a proposal to raise the teacher supplement up to 9% for the upcoming school year and beyond. We know that half of this 1% will be proposed to be funded through the $500,000 fund balance. And after that, it would be funded by the operational cost savings in the CCS budget balance. This raise in supplement is important regardless of decisions made about Beverly Hills or other schools. It takes the political will of the county commission and this board to find a way to better compensate its teachers and make it a priority for every budget, not just as an afterthought. The continued success of Cabarrus County Schools depends on having enough quality teachers for every child we serve. CCS currently has 89 open certified positions and expects another 100 for the 2021 school year with the opening of the new elementary and high schools. As the fastest growing county in the state, our cost of living is now similar to Charlotte's, and many of our teachers are struggling to make ends meet. CCS is competing with neighboring counties to recruit and retain teachers. CMS recently increased their supplement to be the highest in the state, up to 20%. We may never be able to match CMS, but we need to acknowledge that they are our biggest competitor for teachers in the area and to act accordingly. We all need to petition the county commission to provide more funds for competitive teacher compensation and for keeping up our existing, aging, and future facilities. This should not be an either-or situation. Our children need both their teachers and well-maintained schools to be successful. We also need to keep these priorities in mind before considering new initiatives, programs, and vendor contracts within our current budget. Teachers and facilities need to come first to give our children the education they deserve. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Dana Ramsour. Welcome.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I'm Dana Ramsour, the librarian at Central Cabarrus High School, and I'm going to be brief tonight because I wrote a long letter to the Board of Education and Board of Commissioners, and I'm going to put it in the Independent Tribune because I'm a librarian and I love for everybody to read. So hopefully everybody will get some summer reading in. But very few of us teachers are paid on a higher level like master's pay. Fortunately, librarians are one of them. So when I'm up here speaking, I don't really speak for myself or other librarians as much as I speak for teachers like Amy Hicks. She's our Bible teacher at Central Cabarrus. She's been there 31 years. She has a single income and 2 kids in college. She does 2 fundraisers, sweet potatoes in the fall and Vidalia onions in the spring, to supplement her life and what she has to pay, because teaching for 31 years is obviously not enough. So I'm going to be brief and short, and please promise me that you'll read in the future at the Independent Tribune. It seems odd that a supplement increase would be correlated to this one very specific budget item, Beverly Hills Elementary. I feel the Board of Education has done everyone a disservice last year when this issue was brought up. Lastly, I feel that it is hard to do your job if your main interest is keeping your job, or in this case, election votes. Thank you for your time.
Laura Schumann. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and Dr. Louder and board members. While I very much appreciate Dr. Louder's comments earlier, I need to respectfully disagree with them. The vote to vacate the Beverly Hills School was based on staff representations, and on May 13th of this year, Morrisburg Architects provided the results of the feasibility study that demonstrated that certain parts of the staff's data were inaccurate. The feasibility study, however, is unbiased and was conducted by a design professional with tremendous knowledge and expertise. So how great is it that we finally have an opportunity in this county to make some meaningful decisions based on real data and facts. However, in the meantime, Dr. Louder decided to go ahead and offer the closure of Beverly Hills as a sacrificial lamb for the increase in teacher supplements, even though the data used to justify the closure of the school had been rebutted by the third-party study. So now we're acting on opinions instead of facts, and also adding a sad and shameless political move into this mix, attempting to pit children against their teachers. You say this is not a conflict, but the court of public opinion would disagree with you. My parents are retired public school teachers, so I know how much these supplements mean to our educators and their families. I remember hearing my parents' conversations at the kitchen table about another year with no raise, how are we going to make the ends meet? And it was tough. So the supplements do matter. And anyone within CCS leadership who truly feels like an increase is important and isn't just interested in the optics of supporting teachers would have found a way to make this happen before now. But when you pit the closure of a Title I school against teacher supplements, it looks desperate, and I think Cabarrus County can do better. Even taking a cursory look at the CCS budget, one could probably find areas where we can trim some fat. Families like mine do this every day, prioritize what's important and figure out what we can do without, like overbuilt schools with unnecessary features and coffee bars? Can we talk about value engineering with some construction? There's waste out there and we can find it. If we're going to talk about operational savings, we need to look everywhere, including at some of our newly created positions, not new teacher positions, but positions at the county level. I'm actually curious to know if the Board of Education is able to review these positions and candidates, again, under the light of operational savings. Here's the takeaway. It appears that you need to validate the information that this staff provides to you. From now on, when they show you facts, figures, and data, or anything they expect you to use to justify major decisions, your next words to them should be, prove it. I'm sorry to ask you to do your job and theirs, but until we have some history of integrity and factual representation, that's the only way to ensure that you have the best information to do your job, which is making important decisions for our county's most vulnerable citizen, our children. Thank you. And I support teacher supplements.
And Lee Schumann. Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening. I want to first thank the majority of this board for standing up for what is right in the face of adversity and ultimately doing what is right tonight. I want to reiterate that we as the SOS group support fully the teacher supplements. We have always provided this board with accurate, thoughtful, well-researched factual data and counterpoints to why Beverly Hills Elementary should remain open. The tape doesn't lie, but the same can't be said for others and part of the leadership of CCS. Tim Louder claimed that his estimate to build Beverly Hills and Morrisburg's feasibility study estimate are the same. Nothing has changed, he said. Thank you for the confirmation. Well, that is not true. How convenient that Berg's estimate started at $16.5 million and now has been conflated to be at least $21 million. We only have two big problems. Mr. Louder's estimate was $21 million in 2018 dollars. We all know the cost of construction has increased, and that estimate in 2020 dollars would be at a minimum of $24 million. Berg's estimate was in 2020 dollars as well. This is not the same. This estimate that he gave you was for 400 seats. Berg's conflated estimate now is at 548 seats. That is not the same. Tim Louder said that NCDPI standards mandated 400-seat school to be 75,000 square feet, and that is not true. Tim Louder also said that he did a school at 500 seats to one of our board members after the last meeting. Again, not true. Berg confirmed a 500-seat school meeting the same standards as 59,000 square feet, and at 548 seats is 67,000 square feet. How is this the same? This is simple math. Louder's estimate at a minimum is $60,000 a seat. Todd Berg's is $38,000 a seat at the higher number. On what planet do these two things equal each other? Tim Louder delivered that estimate a year ago as the core reason to help sell the closure at Beverly Hills. Then he lied about that estimate again in the face of now factual information from a professional in the field to this board last Monday to cover his tracks. And that action is now being condoned by Dr. Louder. Dr. Louder conveniently left out something when his remarks were made tonight. April 13th, 2015, option 2 was voted for Royal Oaks. That school was to be a swing school and renovate those 3 smaller neighborhood schools. Dr. Louder changed that. There was an option 3 for consolidation that was not voted on by that board. That's the truth. He admitted tonight that he changed that board's decision. And now he's telling you that you had a decision that was made by a previous board that you cannot change. I find that ironic. I would like to remind Dr. Louder that by admitting the fact that the recommendation to close Beverly Hills was made without following the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction's website procedure for closing schools and following North Carolina general statutes. That is still yet to be done. In the face of having nothing left to defend, this CCS leadership and this board chair has left us with this: an attempt by those in power to undermine the legitimacy of our facts and this board's authority by trying to tie the decision on Beverly Hills to a needed and well-deserved teacher supplement, and in so doing putting the welfare of hundreds of students in opposition to all of the teachers of Cabarrus County. But worse yet, putting the teachers at Beverly Hills against their own students. Putting my son and daughter's teacher at odds with my son and daughter. My son came home from school and he told me he was okay if we closed our school if his teacher needed more money. He shouldn't have to make that decision at age 6. But he's been put in that position because the adults can't find a solution. But know that that doesn't change how the kids view our teachers. My Mrs. Brown that I had for 2nd grade taught me not to lie about my homework. And she reinforced that by calling my parents. Every time I think about lying, I see Mrs. Brown's face. My 3rd grade teacher, Mr. Penland, taught me discipline when rulers were used by something other than just measuring. Tonight isn't about Beverly Hills versus teacher supplements. It's about applying the very things that all of our teachers have taught us. That's how we honor our teachers. I want to thank every teacher tonight for what they do. Your students will remember you forever, and that's the richest payback that you'll ever receive. Thank you.
And our last speaker is Joshua Meza. Welcome.
Hello. Hello, Board of Education. I don't know why you're doing this, but we fought for 2 years, so why would we give up now? You should learn from the last 2 years that we've fought, we've spoken, we've poured out so much for this. It took you guys 2 years to figure out a plan how to, to make us choose between teachers or school, and I don't think that's ethical at all, and it doesn't matter what I think, it's not ethical at all. Because that makes sense, You know what else makes sense? Telling us for 2 years that you're going to rebuild our school. Actually, 1 year that you're going to be you're telling us to rebuild our school, but in reality, you guys haven't. It's just like when we were children, our parents would tell us to do our chores. They'd say, hey, do your chores, clean your room, we'll take you out for ice cream later. Guess what? They didn't take you out for ice cream later. That's tough. That's what you been doing to us the whole time. I mean, not delivering our promises, making us choose between giving 1% raise to teachers or keeping a school that matters a lot to people. Now, I'm not a big stats person, I mean, I'm good at math, but I know it's been 4 years since I've left. Doesn't matter. Those 3 years that I went to Beverly Hills, I wouldn't give it up for the world. It was great there. I mean, those teachers, you're really making us choose a school or the teachers. I mean, some of the teachers are here. There's not much left to say. I mean, and ever since I've left, there's been a growth in diversity. There are more Latin Americans there. They don't know what's happening right now. You guys are really going to send them to another school without them knowing? That's ethical to you guys? Oh, yeah, okay. We need people to speak up for them. If you're going to do it anyways, aren't you going to send someone to say it? For real, come on now. I know I'm 15, but this is ethical, or this is unethical. Thank you.
So we'll move on with the agenda, and then you can comment later, okay?
Well, this is on his comment. He owes me an apology.
Okay, we're going to move on the agenda right now. You can talk to Dr. Louder later if you like. We're on agenda item 8.01, the consent agenda. Board members, you have the list of policies, budget amendments, and so on that we agreed collectively to put on the consent agenda last week. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Harrison made the motion. Mr. Walter seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes 7-0. Okay, on the action agenda, we have the school nutrition program procurement plan. I feel like I'm getting into Peter Piper picked. Welcome, Stephanie Almonds.
Thank you. Were there any questions on the procurement plan from last week's discussion?
Board member, any? Okay.
And I do apologize, I was not here last week. Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
I believe you've given us a document, and I'm on page 9. And it is item...
You say on page 9 or?
Page 9 of the Word document, informal procurement procedures. Do I understand this to be a change of the authority of the purchases from $10,000 to $90,000?
No, it is a correction of a typo.
I beg your pardon.
Yes.
Because I did not hear the previous discussion. That's about my only question, unless anyone has any other background.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you.
Well, mine's not a question, but I saw something and wanted to ask you if you've ever done this or if we could possibly do it.
Okay.
It was where children, when they have already purchased a meal, I know we've talked about this many times about stuff being thrown out and stuff, but it's where children have already purchased a meal and maybe they had a milk or a Jell-O or a pudding or something they hadn't eaten unopened, that they took those and put them in a little tray, and so other children could get it. But they just put it at the front of the cafeteria, and so they could take it. But the other children had already purchased meal, and this is stuff they hadn't eaten, and that way it's not thrown out.
Okay. There are some ways that can be done. There's some very specific rules surrounding things called share tables, and has to do with food safety. What we like to do to really try to prevent waste, because I think that is the idea behind all of that, nobody likes to see food thrown away, is to really educate our students on what's something that's called offer versus serve, which is part of the USDA guidelines, where the students, when they come through the line, for instance at lunch, they may decline 2 of the 5 items if they like, so they don't have to take everything. The only thing that they absolutely have to take is a fruit or vegetable. That is part of those guidelines. And then as long as they have 3 items on that tray, that constitutes a reimbursable meal. So that helps us prevent food waste on the front end. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. This thing I saw, it showed the things that were in cups and everything, and they had showed it with ice in it, so it wouldn't go bad or anything. And it had a thing that said share, and it said the person could take 1 item. But again, they stressed that the meal had already been paid for and everything, and that the people could do it. But it showed that it was on ice, so it didn't spoil or anything like that. But I didn't know if we had something like that.
Yeah,
so.
we currently are not allowed to do share tables for the food safety reason. I don't know why it keeps cutting off. I'm sorry. It's just timing me out. We are currently not allowed, for food safety reasons, to do share tables, so we really try to approach it from the front end and helping prevent food waste, because nobody does like to see the food go in the trash. I definitely understand your concern.
But is it federal reasons we can't do it?
There's a variety of reasons. The majority is usually local health department control, but there are some federal guidelines addressing share tables, some very specific rules. But currently, state and local rules. There are some districts that are able to do it, I believe, out of state, as far as what you're talking about, the repackaging, but you're incurring then additional costs in order to do that currently is really outside the scope of the school nutrition program.
Well, this was out of school, but I think it was out of state.
I believe it is.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, board members? I'll take motion to approve the proposed school nutrition program procurement plan as presented.
I make a motion we approve.
Okay, Carolyn, Ms. Carpenter made the motion. Second, Mr. Shoemaker made the second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Ms. Lallman. Next item, 9.02, is for the annual renewal of computer leases, and we'll welcome Mr. Dane Hughes.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. I'm here to present the annual computer lease and want to know if you had any questions or follow-ups.
Yeah, just explain again why we have a 4-year lease and not a 5-year lease or a 3-year lease or whatever. Why is it a 4?
It has to do with the lifespan of the computers. A typical lifespan is 3 to 4 years. Sometimes we'll stretch it a little bit beyond that. What we'll usually take those machines after they're 4 years and trickle them down. And so that's what Apple and Dell, that's their standard computer lease, is a 4-year.
It's not our decision. It was a standard lease for.
It's just pretty much a standard lease across the industry.
Yeah, and I'll confirm that that is 4 years is now the standard renewal. For a while there it was 3 years, and we certainly couldn't maintain that, but based on the technology, how equipment is made today and whatnot, it's generally accepted to be a 4-year standard lease. So board members, do I have a motion to approve the annual Apple and Dell computer leases as presented?
I'll move it. I'll second.
Is it Mr. Harrison and Mr. Shoemaker? Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next we'll go to the recommendation of the middle school architectural design team, my mouth is dry tonight, regarding the new middle school design.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. The construction department received statements of qualifications from 15 architectural design firms. Those 15 firms were evaluated by the construction committee using a rubric to narrow the field to the final 4 firms. Interviews were set up for the final 4 firms where they were given 30 minutes to present and address the criteria provided. The final 30 minutes was set up for questions, answers, and discussions. The selection committee voted and unanimously agreed that YCH Architects was their top choice. Each of the presenting firms are incredibly talented, and the decision was not easy based on the presentation and the information provided. It was clear that YCH Architects elevated themselves and are, in our opinion, the best qualified firm for this project. Staff has recommended this to the superintendent, and the superintendent has recommended this to the board. We recommend that YCH Architects be selected as the firm to design the new middle school to open in August 2022. If approved, staff will begin negotiating contract terms, and the board will be asked to approve the negotiated contract at the July 8th board meeting.
Mrs. Grimsley and Mr. Shoemaker were our board representatives on the selection committee. Mrs. Grimsley, do you want to share anything from that process?
Well, it was a great process. I felt like the guys did a really good job in their presentations. I think a lot of it came out of it. It's funny to come off this board in 2012 when you've been a part of that process and have a block of time that takes place, and then you come back and things look a little bit different. But out of it came that there were problems evidently with there's no perfect construction process, and I know that far greater than anybody else sitting up here probably put together. But at the end of the day, the selection was made, the presentations were made. I think we'll have the only thing I really want to say, Ms. Romer, is I definitely want to support a prototype. I know we got into that discussion quite a bit during that interview process, but that is something that I do support. You know, we've got great architects that have interviewed for these positions. You know, they all bring their strong points, and there's been issues with a lot of the projects throughout the process. With each and every one of them, you could pick them to death, but at the end of the day, I think a good selection was made, and I support the decision.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Likewise, we actually started off with 15 architects, and
After exhaustive reading and comparisons, I could tell you that all 15 were capable of doing the work. We had a lot of high-quality folks, a lot of very good information, and a lot of strength in a lot of different areas. The 4 that we were looking at had a lot of experience with doing schools, and also most of them had prototypes, like Ms. Grimsley was talking about, and they talked about prototypes and the way to morph the prototypes and combine and to make something that would still be a Cabarrus County school that would be slightly different, but basically it would be off of a prototype. YCH had a very good representation in there, and they had some very, they had done a lot of homework on the site, and so that was why they rose above the others. But I think all the others did as much homework, and some came in with cutting models to start with. So I think, again, the top 4 that we had were extremely talented and capable of providing us the services. Each one was talked about as far as their ability to deal with construction manager at risk. And so we looked at the construction manager at risk and asked each one of them about their abilities to work under those conditions, and they all had experience in that area. So I thought we did a really good a good review of the process. And so I think there were a couple that kind of rose to the top out of that process, and then we ended up with Yates and Kreitzberg.
Okay, board members, questions?
Is there not any way we could get those 4 that were those? One of my things is that those Yates has already got a job with us now. I would really like to see the other ones that were in those top 4. Me personally, because they are doing a job for us now.
Ms. Carpenter, we sent those to you. You have them. You have those top 4. You have the top 4.
The presentations, we have them.
Where?
We received them by way of email, I think.
9.03.
They're all in board docs for board members.
Well, she's looking. I do have 2 questions. Which firm would you expect had the most construction manager at risk experience? Because that's new for us.
So I can ask Mr. Louder and Mr. Cohn to also speak, as well as Mr. Shoemaker, because we all did have that discussion, and I think it was very clear that Yates Kreisberg had a lot, so did a couple of the other firms.
But who would you say had the most?
In my personal
'Cause it's
opinion,
new for us.
just looking at it was Yates Kreisberg.
I didn't get it. I don't get it on mine. They see, I don't have it on mine.
We'll check and make sure you get that, Ms. Carpenter.
Yeah, it may be that if you didn't log out and log back in, like maybe you've been online for a couple days on board docs, you've got to log out and log back in to pick up attachments.
Okay.
Yes, it's not public.
In my personal opinion, Yates Kreisberg in their presentation and what they gave us in the thing had as much or more than everybody else.
Okay. Mr. Shoemaker, your thoughts?
Well, I think Yates and Kreitzberg had definitely construction manager at risk experience. There were LS3P was one of the top ones, and they also had a lot of construction manager at risk. But each one of these firms, Morrisburg, all had exposure and had been working under those, and actually touted the fact that we were going that direction. So I didn't hear anything negative about the direction of going construction manager at risk. They said basically in this environment that is a better way to be going.
All right, so you had, like say mine, well, do I need to turn it off completely?
No, just log out and log back in.
Well, I mean, I've done that.
Yeah, not just exit out. You have to actually log off.
Okay, so turn it off.
No. Look at the little person, sorry, on the top of the board docs. There's a drop-down arrow. It'll show that you're logged on. So, Ms. Grimsley, any comments about the construction manager at risk experience?
Well, I think Mr. Hughes is in the audience, and he's perfectly capable of speaking for himself. So how about he come to the podium and address it?
Well, I kind of wanted it from the selection committee, just observation.
Well, I mean,
since I wasn't there.
we've stated our thoughts through it. You know, they actually did tout the most experience between the four. There was no proof of any of that, so you know you have to go by what they present. So I'm thinking that coming first.
And we can do that in a moment. My second question was, as far as did you all inquire as far as I guess, somewhat unique safety consideration ideas because to get some fresh thoughts as we're building this school. You know, we do the security vestibules, we do some other things in schools, but were there any fresh thoughts explained?
Well, I will take that, Lynn, bless your heart. Okay, so yes, absolutely. The different divisions that the presentees gave to us definitely addressed safety, various different areas, and they all gave a good presentation on safety because, of course, that's the number one thought process right now with any architectural firm. That's going to be one of the first ones that they tout. But Yates Kreitzberg did do a good presentation, but they all did on safety. I mean, they're all going to be.
I'm just thinking unique ideas.
Well, my thought would be, how about we have him come to the podium and have him address that? I think firsthand would be the best way to get that information.
That's fine. So the two questions, one is construction manager at risk, and one is about any kind of what I'll call, you know, unique perspectives on safety.
Yes, ma'am. Our construction manager at risk experience started out with the City of Concord Police Department, which was the first CM at risk project done in Cabarrus County, although it was done for the city. And that project resulted in a $500,000 change order deduct back to the city at the end of the project. And I believe at the groundbreaking or the ribbon cutting, Mayor Padgett at the time said this is the first project we've had in 10 years where somebody didn't get sued. So it's a very collaborative process. You ultimately end up with a better product at the end of the day because the CM at risk is able to pre-qualify subcontractors. So you don't, pardon my French, you don't get everybody in a pickup truck bidding on your project and contractors that go broke. And nowadays, the construction market is so busy that subcontractors literally will take 10 minutes and throw down a bid and email it in. And anyways, I think it's a great process. We did the Cabarrus County Board of Elections for the county under a CM at risk process, which was the first project that the county had ever done CM at risk, and they're now doing the courthouse CM at risk. We're currently working on a new park in Harrisburg under a CM at risk process. In fact, I just was at a 3-hour-long meeting right before this where the CM at risk was reviewing our about 75% complete drawings and coming up with budget prices, and we're going through, somebody said value engineering, already going through value engineering before we even get the bids in. So we've done a lot of CM at risk projects, and it's really a process.
For the public, what is CM at risk?
Construction manager at risk. It is where you select the construction manager the way you select professional services on qualifications based. Then you negotiate their overhead profit and various fees that go along with it. Then the construction manager actually goes out and bids each and every little part of the project. So you do get competitive bids. They are able to pre-qualify subcontractors, so you get a higher level of quality. But it is a competitive process. It's a completely open book process where all the bids are reviewed. Some contractors used to say, we'll do this, Holly, you probably know this, we'll do this project for 2% profit and overhead. Well, nobody can make a living doing a project for 2% in profit and overhead. So they were hiding a lot of money in what's called the general conditions. So this is an open book process where you can see where every cent on that project is spent. Nowadays, when we go through value engineering after a project, we probably get back 50 cents on the dollar to what the bid was. So this is a completely open book process where you can see all the numbers. I think it's a great process, especially in this time of construction, because one tweak can raise the price of your school 10 to 20%.
Okay. And what about, like I said, some ideas? Because like I said, I could read all the flat files,
yes,
and I did for all the 4 firms in the finals. But I couldn't hear the Q&A, obviously, because I wasn't there.
School safety is an ever-evolving topic. I went to a school dude conference a couple of years ago where an expert on school safety, a military guy, gave the presentation,
And he said the first thing you architects did was you put secure vestibules on the front of all your schools, and some of them may or may not have bulletproof glass. And you said there's only been one instance of somebody shooting their way in from the outside, and that was up in, was it Sandy Hook? He said you need to focus more on the interior of your school. Have nice clear sight lines. Divide your large school into smaller pods that are easy to secure, easy to evacuate, easy to lock down, easy to manage. Transparency, where before we thought we'll build concrete block walls that people can't shoot through, that actually hampers law enforcement because they can't see what's going on. So transparency has actually become much more prevalent in school security, believe it or not, because it allows law enforcement to see readily what's going on in that school. One of the comments we heard during the design of one of our schools was, in a couple of the schools, all of the public areas, the auditorium, the cafeteria, the media center, the gymnasium, they're all on one corridor, which actually makes design sense to us. You know, put everything public right there where everybody can get to it. The problem is they're hard to secure. When you have a basketball game going on at the same time as a band concert, people mix. It's just the hallways get crowded. So I believe Chuck Taylor told us that the elementary school that we designed at Hickory Ridge, which was mostly due to the site, he said that's a very safe school because you divided it into smaller little pods. So it's an 800 to 900 student school, but there's no more than 200 students in a wing at a time. So security is an ever-changing dialogue, and that is some of the ideas that we presented.
And I actually have one more question. How can the construction manager risk process help us save any change in architectural fees?
It's really, I don't know that it saves you any change in architectural fees because we still have to produce the same documents because it is.
I'm not saying to make it less expensive on the percentage scale on the front end. I'm saying to not have change additional fees as we've had in the past.
Oh yes.
In many cases.
What happens is the construction manager at risk will, hopefully starting at schematic design, will review the design and come up with different constructability issues and the way they affect the budget. And they will continuously review the documents all the way through. So we won't get to the end of the project and say, oh, we're over budget. It will happen continuously.
So, and I've just been through building too many schools. I think I'm on about 18 to 20 range now. So I have questions. So if the construction manager at risk makes a change, do we incur extra architectural fees, or is that considered part of the whole process?
I'll consider it part of the whole process.
Okay.
For instance, the site that was given to us has some grade changes, and we came up with a couple of schemes where the school stepped down with grade change, like we did at Hickory Ridge Elementary School. That requires a big retaining wall with lots of steel and lots of concrete. Then we came up with a couple schemes where we created a plateau, and then we went 2 or 3 stories up. Well, that involves a lot of grading. So I think the benefit of the construction manager at risk is he can very quickly tell us which costs more, which is the most cost-effective way to approach it. And then as we go through the entire process, they will evaluate the most cost-effective way to achieve what we all want to achieve.
Okay, thank you. I mean, you know I have an aversion to extra fees.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I agree.
We all do. But I think we need to, a takeaway here needs to be, Bill, if you don't mind. The architectural fee where we save money is when we use the prototypes. That's the discussion.
Right,
that
and
needs
we
to be
actually
had.
have one, but
That's where you save the money.
Mhm.
That's not the CMR at risk, that's the process. The architectural fees savings is in using a prototype.
You can, they all have to be site adapted. It's really not a tremendous amount of savings, but you're right. So Tim Louder said, all the developers have taken all the 40-acre flat pieces of land and built houses on them. So each site we seem to get is very, very challenging, or can be very challenging, and requires, most of the time requires a new and innovative concept.
And I think it's worthy of noting that with that process also, value engineering after the fact, as you stated, is not worth what you'll get out of it in the front end, and that's the most important part of that.
That's, yes. And we would hope that the construction manager at risk would be involved. We have, in the schedule that we presented in our RFQ, we have probably 6 or 7 different areas or times when we give the CM at risk 10 to 14 days to go over the documents and tell us any cost savings without harming the design that they think would be valuable. But I would hope it would be a continuous process. We have a sign in our office that has somebody giving a very, very bad tattoo that says it can always be done cheaper. But what you want is the best value for the money you spend.
Other questions?
And that's one of my questions. I mean, can we not use the design we had? I mean, what we built before, could we not use that? I mean,
So what do we have, 3 schools with that design? Middle schools?
but that's one of my questions. If we could, because like our last one.
But times do change, and there are different things that come in. So I think a fresh design is okay. What are the highlights of your design or proposal? What are you thinking for the school?
We actually, I believe, gave 4 different concepts, and I believe we had 5 days to prepare. So we were very pressed for time. But,
Premature question then.
Huh?
Premature question, is that?
No, sir. I think the site has a lot of different opportunities that still need to be developed, and I think the ultimate scheme will probably be a combination. And we did these all on our own without your input, without the committee's input. So I think it has opportunity for lots of collaborative areas, for lots of 2-story areas because of the different grade change. Schools have become, as you said, the design has changed. Schools have become much more collaborative, much more interactive. Middle schools are probably the hardest schools to design because of the change going on in the kids and how to address that in an architectural manner.
Not using lockers anymore?
Hmm?
Not using lockers anymore?
No.
Yeah. I thought we do use lockers in middle school because they have 7 or 8 classes. And that's another thing, trying to get kids in between 7 or 8 classes as opposed to 3 or 4. Requires.
Okay, board members, we ready to vote? Any other comments? Okay, I'll take a motion.
Do we, I mean, are we under a time crunch here on this?
I think so.
And we will be trying to negotiate a contract between now and July and bring you a contract July 8th for approval so that we can stay on time with this timeline.
One of the things, I mean, with Morrisburg, because they built our last one, is that not correct?
Yes.
And
Guess what? Mike keeps going off. Winkler and Hickory Ridge Middle. And Mount Pleasant Middle 3. Yeah, the
and
last
that's why I
middles.
didn't know if we could, I mean, could get any kind, if we use that as a clone. I mean, that's a up-to-date current design.
Yeah, that one's pretty recent.
And that was pretty recent. And I have no problem with even considering them myself. Now, I don't know how everybody else feels, but that's a design, if we could reuse that and clone that design.
We're at the point of taking a motion.
I'll make the motion that YCH be approved as the middle school architect design team.
Can have additional discussion if needed? Okay.
So to my mind, we are middle school poor, so yes, we are under a time crunch to get
Yes.
this moving and going and to resolve that question and be able to make future plans about student seating. So I'll defer to Ms. Grimsley and Mr. Shoemaker's expertise. But notice also that we're also deferring to staff's expertise and your deep knowledge about matters related to school construction. And that's in contrast in my mind to earlier comments about the lack of integrity, which I don't believe in. And I think what you've given us here is a good presentation and a good plan to move forward, but it should set the tone for our trust of the staff's expertise in matters related to construction.
Any further discussion?
Well, as I mentioned before, they're working on our elementary school now, and we've worked with Morrisburg before, and as we saw where we had LPG, what I call them,
LS3P.
Yeah, that, you know, it's those things. We had them, we had Morrisburg, we had Yates, and then there was another company that I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah.
And like I say, I think it's good for us to kind of spread it with the other ones. And like I say, they've already doing the elementary, working on the elementary. And like I say, I think Morrisburg would be, and they did middle schools before.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Motion by Mr. Walter, second by Mr. Harrison. We can take this vote and then see if there's any need for further discussion. So all in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, so that motion is 6-1. So I guess, Ms. Carpenter, that'll be a moot point at this. Yeah.
Well,
So,
put it out there.
board members, we are going, because we have two lengthy items coming up, we're going to take a short recess. It's 8:14 by my clock. I would ask you to try to be back within about 7 minutes. So if we can do this quickly. So we'll be back in 7 minutes. We'll ask the audience to be back in and seated as well. Thank you.